are not patentable, right? Like peptides. Peptides
Right.
are not really difficult
Testosterone.
to testosterone, right? And so
There's no interest in it from the
there's no
company.
interest. It was the first time that I ever took Jaden to a live event. He
How
was
old is Jaden now?
16.
Oh, that's good. That's
He
good.
loved it.
Yeah.
I, I really have you. Do you know Bill Burr? You don't know Bill Burr, the comedian? Oh, you got
Neither
to
did
watch.
I.
Anyways, he was amazing. He's hilarious, great storyteller. And so, anyways, that's not topic. So, welcome to the Epicist, another episode of our podcast. I'm here with Eli, my partner in crime. Sometimes,
Yeah.
most of the time.
Listen, that lovely music in the back.
I know.
That's
How nice is that?
I like that.
Anyways, today we're going to talk about diet, I think, and we'll talk about a bit about testosterone as well.
Yeah, sure.
So why don't we start with testosterone, because it's I think it's something we both are really interested in. And I know that I'm going to talk about my protocol that I do that I've tried. So out of all the things we've talked about the 4 pillars, and I think I'll mention this every time.
Yeah, I think so. I think
sleep, which is the hardest one I find to manage. Diet, of course, and we're going to talk a bit about that today. Exercise, and what's the 4th one?
hydration, would it be?
No, it's not hydration.
I like hydration though. It should actually be a sub pillar though. I mean, we should get into hydration.
Hydration, sure.
Yeah.
Anyways, whatever. We'll figure that one out. So with that, when I added the one thing I added probably this before I tried anything else. I've taken my health into my own hands in a sense, because I find that, at least in Canada, doctors are not they're not that helpful. They don't think outside the box. But one of the first things I took
Can
charge
you
of,
elaborate a little bit on that about the doctors?
that they're idiots. Sure. Most doctors
About Canada and
I don't know if
the
it's just
whole,
Canada, by the way. I think it's North America, but Canada for sure. And it's not
less demonized in the U.S. There's more clinics, but let's talk about the lack of clinics, lack of doctors.
Yeah. So, well, I don't know if it's because we have socialized healthcare, which, by the way, is, I know Americans think it's terrible, but it's actually one of the best things, in the sense that everybody has the right to medical care, and it's available for everybody at no cost. I have friends who are afraid to get really sick because they could end up having to put a mortgage on their home, a second mortgage, just to pay for their medical bills, right? So I'm all for socialized medicine. The downside is that we don't get the best doctors, one, and they're really restricted by policies of
the College of Physicians.
College of Physicians and Surgeons, yeah. So most of them don't think outside the box. Most are very clinical. They have a book. If you have this, you take this. If you have this, you take that. If you're this, we're going to have this surgery, right? But all the new discoveries that we've had in the last 10 to 20 years with testosterone replacement therapy, hormone replacement therapy, with peptides, with SARMs, with so many different things, it's just not within their realm. And, one of the greatest problems is that they are, a lot of research is funded by pharmaceutical companies, right? So pharmaceuticals, what are they interested in? They're interested in making money. They're corporations that need to make money. And if they can't make money from something, they're not going to research it, because it serves no purpose for them. They can't sell it and make money. And a lot of what the doctors, if the information they get, is from the research done by pharmaceuticals. So there's a cycle of, but that's the same in the States, by the way. It's not just here in Canada. There's a cycle of anything. A lot of the things that are discovered that are really great are not patentable, right? Like peptides. Peptides are not really difficult to testosterone, right? And so
there's no interest in it from.
There's no interest. I mean, you can get pharmaceutical grade testosterone, but they don't own that. It's like it's something they sell. So if I get it prescribed by a doctor, then I can get it from the pharmacy, and if I have a drug plan, some of it's covered, blah blah blah. But anyways. So all that to say that, most doctors are not thinking outside the box of what they're told to think, and testosterone is one of them. And, So one of the first things I did in my when I discovered that I was low on many things after some blood tests is to start doing these testosterone protocols. It started with the doctor prescribed me because they can prescribe certain things. They just prescribed me a gel,
So let's talk. How old were you approximately when you
55,
found that your testosterone started to go down?
55. It probably went down way before then
Right.
because I had noticed at some point that I had all these symptoms of I didn't know they were symptoms. I just had all these symptoms of low testosterone. Had gained weight. I hadn't changed my diet or my exercise. I was still eating properly, relatively properly, exercising every 3, 4, 5 times a week. Nothing had changed except I started to gain weight. My sex drive dropped. I had lack of clarity of thought
Yeah.
and no energy. I didn't realize this, by the way. It crept up on
Becomes a
me.
new normal, right? You get used to
And
it.
every day is a new normal. And every time your testosterone goes down, it's a new normal. It wasn't until my ex-wife, at the time, my ex-wife had mentioned some things to me that she noticed, and I'm like, oh, oh yeah, and I'm like, okay. So I thought, okay, well, I better go get checked by the doctor, and he ran some tests, and that's the other thing. They don't even do comprehensive tests.
Right. Yeah.
But luckily, the couple things they did test were, I think they tested for testosterone.
Did you ask for it, or did you just tell him how you felt and he came up with
Yeah, I told
something?
him how I felt. They tested for thyroid. Anyways, the first thing he prescribed was the thyroid medication. He said, your thyroid's low. Let's start there. So he gave me thyrazine or whatever it is,
Synthroid or something like that.
Synthroid,
Yeah.
yeah. And, that takes a long time to get it stabilized in the system. So I think I went back maybe 2, 3 months later for more blood tests. And he said, well, how do you feel? I said, well, maybe 10% better, maybe. Maybe it was psychological, but it wasn't there wasn't some massive improvement. And he said, well, your testosterone is kind of low, and they have the range. You know about the range. The range, I think, I don't even know. It's like let's say 300 to 600. Doesn't matter what it is. If within that range, if you're at the high end of this, like near the 600, they'll say you're fine. And if you're down near the 300, you'll say you're low, right? Or if you're below 300, you're really low. We know, and we've discussed this, we know that that's not necessarily true. You could be 1,000 or 1,100. Your score could be 1,200, and that could be normal for you, right? And maybe I don't know if you'll share that with us, but the tests that you did. But anyways, he acknowledged that I had the testosterone of a 70-year-old. I was only 50 at the time, so he prescribed this gel. Well, gel's kind of useless.
But he didn't have trouble. You didn't have to twist his arm.
No, that falls within their range of what they can prescribe,
okay.
right?
Yeah.
And it's created by a pharmaceutical company, and so they're making money on it. So it's a gel. It's got like minimal amount of testosterone, and about 10% of that gets into your blood system. So you rub it on your shoulders or whatever, and so I tried that. Went back for tests. My testosterone, nothing really had changed much. Maybe another 5% improvement. So then that's when I started looking for a doctor that was, a little more advanced in their thinking. I found one, and he prescribed a compounded cream, which you can get much higher levels of testosterone in it. And that helped a bit. But even that, again, it's a very small percentage that gets into the blood system. It gets absorbed through the skin and then has to get. And then he prescribed pills, so you can take pills, and that one's probably worse for absorption.
Testosterone pills?
Yeah. Yeah, most of it gets lost in the digestive system, right? And so it was kind of around then I decided I was going to. Oh no, I found a doctor who was willing to prescribe injectable testosterone.
Were you doing some groundwork on your own?
I was doing a ton of research.
Yeah.
And he started, I think, at the what's considered sort of a base dose is around 100 milligrams a week injection. And that started making a huge difference for me, like huge. I started to feel better, and I started to have more energy, and I started to have more clarity of thought. And unfortunately, he's not in that field anymore. That's maybe 6 years ago. And so finding him was so difficult, like finding a doctor who would go that way. So I just decided to take things in my own hands, and I decided to So now I now knew that the injectable testosterone was going to help me, and so but I no longer had a prescription, so I started buying black market, right? And maybe that's sketchy. I mean, the guy I buy from I trust, I don't think he's not like a street dealer or something. He's pretty legit. And I've now experimented between 100 milligrams, and I switched from Cypionate, which it has a shorter half life, which is important when you're sort of trying to figure out the right levels. To a undecanate, which has got a really long half life. You don't want to be doing undecanate when you're starting out, because if you go too high, it's going to take a long time for it to get out of your system, right? And so once I kind of had a sense of the levels that were working for me, I switched to the undecanate, and I've ranged between 100 and 200 milligrams of undecanate a week. And I think undecanate has like a half-life of 30 days or something like that. It's a long time.
That's why I think I heard some doctors prescribe it in the U.S. every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But does that work?
Yep, that would work. Some doctors prescribe it once a month,
Right.
But so if you do the once a month, you're going to, hear, and then you're going to start to, because with a half-life in 30 days, it's got half the amount that it did in your system when you first started. So you're going to start here, and it's going to decline, right? And so you're going to have these sort of roller coasters of moods and feelings and whatever. And I've heard before of the idea of going back to the Cypionate and injecting 3 times a week, or
Even
7
every
times
day?
a week. Yeah.
The big thing now is every day, like
Yeah.
daily. Huh? So tell us more about when you inject, where do you do it, what size needle, and that kind of thing.
Well, I'll just tell you before I'm at 200 milligrams a week now.
Which
And
seems to be sort of the standard protocol that they do in the U.S. If
200,
there's a cookie cutter.
200 to 250. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, they even go as high as 300.
Yeah. That gets
So-
beyond what's considered therapeutic, though.
Yeah. But the concern, so there's a few concerns about taking exogenous testosterone. One is that your red blood cell count increases, right? And that thickens your blood. So, you don't want your blood to be too thick, obviously. That could be cause for heart attacks or other problems. That's a concern. So, in any of this, I have to get regular blood tests. And you know that I probably haven't done that for a while. And I'm going this week I have this unbelievable panel now of blood tests I'm getting done thanks to our nurse practitioner friend. And I'm going to set that as the baseline, and then I'm going to get that done every 6 months. But
We may want to get her on the show one time if she's up for it.
she said, yeah.
Okay, great.
She already said, yeah.
Hey, nice. You're on it.
Yeah. And so, and one of the things they check, of course, is your standard, blood composition, your red blood cell count and all that. So if it's too high, that could be a concern, your platelet levels and all that. So that's a concern. And then the other concern is that, it's a concern that's not real, is that it increases the risk of potentially cardiovascular disease, but it's been proven otherwise. There was a study done by the Mayo Clinic, which was a compilation of, 20 plus studies. And the conclusion was, in fact, testosterone replacement therapy improves heart health.
Right. From what I read, you're at a greater risk if you have low testosterone, greater cardiovascular risk if you don't supplement with it.
Yeah. So now I'm at a point where I'm taking 200 a week, and I feel amazing. And again, I want to
Can you share
emphasize
how old you are with everybody?
22.
No wonder you feel amazing.
That's right. Yeah, I'm still in puberty. I'm 61. Yeah. So I lost my train of thought now. Where was I going?
We were talking about side effects. You feel amazing.
Oh yeah, I feel amazing.
61.
So I would say that, and it's not the magic pill. I want to be really clear about that, right? I think we've talked about this too. Like, you can't just start injecting testosterone and not do any of the other basic things and be healthy and feel good and perform well. You've got to put all those things into place first, and this is another building block on top of that. But I would say, out of all the things I've done, on top of the 4 pillars, is the best one so far is testosterone. Like, it has had the most positive, profound effect on my life. Whether it be body composition, and I'm vain, or
Yeah, you have veins.
and I have veins, and or whether it be my sexual drive, or whether it be clarity of thought
Yeah.
or energy or
Dopamine too. It works on a dopamine pathway. That's why you feel great.
yeah.
But again, we can't say that it's a panacea for everyone. I remember I sort of reacquainted with you in your office a couple years back, and I walk in like, what the hell? Look at the physique on this guy. And you talked about testosterone. About to me, you just take testosterone, you look like this, but that's far from the case.
No,
You
but so
have
I,
to,
I eat well,
yeah.
I exercise, I get my sleep, and I don't know why I can't remember the fourth pillar, but maybe I need more testosterone. My brain is not as clear as I thought it was. Um, so I do all those things. Those things are like I wouldn't waste my time with testosterone if I wasn't doing those things.
And nor is it recommended. If you don't have sleep, nutrition, exercise dialed in,
Yeah,
it's pointless.
Patrick, do you remember what the fourth pillar is? I don't know why I can't remember it. Stress
management.
That's why you're here, Patrick.
Stress
Not
management.
many other reasons.
Yeah.
Stress management, yeah. So, and stress management, I've done better on. But if I wasn't doing those four things, adding testosterone would just be a waste of time. A waste of time and money, and I don't think it would hurt me, but it won't help me. And I think people, we live in a culture now where we want the quick fix for something, right? And it's not a quick fix, but it if I'm at this level of those things, those four pillars, well, it takes me to a whole new level. It really just adds so much more. And so, I train with people less than half my age, and I perform with them when I want to. I don't always feel like it. Like I don't, but I did my first kickboxing fight 2.5 years ago.
So like 58, 59 years
59 years old.
Just have your first kickboxing.
Yeah. And that was in front of 2,700 people, I had a blast. I do hill training. I do weights. I really believe in weights. I think we both believe in weights. And that's the other thing, right? Loss of muscle mass happens with age.
It's incredible how important it is as we age as well.
Yeah. Aside from the fact it holds everything together, it also improves metabolism, general health.
Metabolic health, amazing.
And that's something that declines and because, so if you don't know, when your peak is about 30 years old.
Peak for your testosterone.
Your testosterone, all your hormones, your peptides, all those things, all the things the body's producing to keep you as a man start to decline after 30. It's slow. For some people, it's a little faster, but it starts to decline after 30. And so my goal is always not to be the best 60-year-old version of me. My goal is to be the 30-year-old version of me, at all the levels that I had when I was 30. And so I can perform. I can perform with 30-year-olds. And I'm not bragging, but it feels good. It feels good to be able to do hill training,
absolutely,
and kickboxing,
and to keep up with these guys,
and weights, and so building muscles is another one because the testosterone declines over all that time. Muscle,
and same with adding fat. I mean, you can't burn fat is the way you did. Like you said,
right.
You notice you had a gut, and you exercise. You didn't change anything.
Yeah.
So.
But testosterone is what builds muscle, right? It's part of what makes a man and muscular, right? And so that's the muscle decline, testosterone declines, muscle declines, and general health declines. So, I'm just, it's been great. It's been, it's not the magic pill, but it is, if I don't have to choose one out of the maybe dozen things that I do, but if I had to choose one on top of the four pillars, that would be the one.
Would be the one. Yeah. Right.
Add to that the peptides, add to that, a couple other things I do not a good diet, but I mean different diets that I've tried. But,
speaking of diet, we should, we'll talk.
Do you want to talk about testosterone at all?
I want to talk about, a little bit further about that. I mean, I think we're going to have a few episodes on the topic because there is so much to be said. And one of the things I think we should cover is the stigma around hormone replacement therapy. Especially
I think we actually like to call it hormone optimization therapy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's key is optimizing these hormones, not just getting them at a sort of baseline, but to have vigor and to be able to perform the way you described.
So you can say no to this question. Can you share what your levels were when you got tested a number of years ago?
Yeah. So the first time I suffer from insomnia, and 5 years ago it was really, really bad. And the only thing I could think, I felt terrible. Like no motivation, nothing. So I asked several doctors, like, "Will you give me testosterone? Because from what I understand, it'll help me feel good. It might even help me sleep better."
Yeah.
I was, I'll be honest, I was desperate to find something to help me sleep and to feel good. And all of them said no. We just won't. And I went. There was at the time here in Ottawa, believe it or not, was a testosterone clinic. So I went to see him, and although I felt the way I felt, my levels, he put it, were the highest natural levels he's seen in his clinic, and he said he could not prescribe based on that,
Okay,
no
so
matter my
can we
symptoms.
pause there?
Yeah,
So, do you mind sharing what your level was?
yeah, it was 537 or something like that, and in Canada, the upper level was low
600, I think.
500s.
Oh,
No, it was, yeah. This was, I remember the number was red that I had, which
yeah,
was over
over.
the
Okay.
levels. So we will have to do a little bit of work and discuss levels and the units of those levels, because in the U.S. they use a different measurement
Okay. Yes.
than
Yeah.
here. So I think we can leave that. But it was yeah, I think we should get into numbers at another time. But it was quite high, and he still couldn't prescribe.
But you were before that. You had been tested 5 years before that, hadn't you?
That was the time. That was 5 years. So that was 5 years ago.
Okay.
That particular story that I mentioned. And then last year I tested, and although it was still, this was the funny part about the reference range, and this is an important part. Although I still fell within the reference range, it was low normal, but still in the normal range. It had dropped 50% from when I was where I was 5 years ago.
Right.
They don't look at that drop, and they didn't have the. If the last doctor had that information, I'm still sure he wouldn't prescribe.
Yeah.
But that's the importance of having a baseline before anyone's deciding to do hormone replacement therapy. You need to get your levels tested first.
I would recommend men, women too, but I'm not really knowledgeable on women. Men should get their levels tested when they're 30.
Yeah,
I think they should get a baseline when they're 30.
absolutely.
Look at what your normal is when you're 30, and then when you turn 40, get them tested again. And if you've dropped enough, do something about it.
I
45.
mean, if you feel great, fine, continue. But
Yeah, because a lot of it's feeling. Numbers don't tell the whole story.
no, they don't.
They do tell a story, but they don't tell the whole story. So,
So in my case, I was symptomatic, yet the numbers were fine.
yeah,
Um,
and they can't do anything. That's
they
again
can't. They're
the
governed by
limitations of the doctors is, well, you're within the range. It's like this. It's like this made up range
yeah,
because it's not one size fits all. Like,
see, we should dig into where that reference range comes from, and where did they come up with these. That might be something worth knowing, because
apparently they have a reference range for just about everything,
right,
right?
yeah.
They have a reference range for cholesterol, which is not based on any like it's not absolute. It's like saying everybody fits into this category, right?
yeah.
But that's not true.
And that's the importance of combining blood work with symptoms.
Yes.
You can't. And when you hear the experts, primarily in the U.S., talking about this, they are focused on symptoms.
Yes.
Almost, if they had to put one over the other, symptoms over blood work, they would go that way.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think they have to be cautious because, if they were to be sued and they went strictly on symptoms, they could be in trouble, right? They have to look at the numbers and everything. So, yeah, so testosterone optimization is for men over, I would say over 40, is something they should consider. They should look at their levels and monitor them. And I would test maybe once a year or once every couple of years and see what the trend is, And if it's trending down, get them back up rather than waiting until you're feeling old and looking old,
But there's this terrible stigma around testosterone therapy.
Yes.
I
Probably because bodybuilders have done massive amounts of testosterone. Like they do thousands of milligrams, but
and that's a different, a steroid cycle, as far as athletes are doing, is not the same as being on testosterone replacement or optimization therapy.
Right.
They are not the same.
no.
If somebody came up to you and asked you, "Are you on a steroid cycle?" you could legitimately say, "No, I'm not.
No, I'm not.
You're on testosterone replacement. You're
Yeah.
replacing what you lost."
It's the same every week. It's ongoing. It's
Right.
not meant to
It's-
elevate me beyond what's normal.
Exactly.
It's not for bodybuilding. It's just to help me feel amazing and perform amazing and be healthier.
See, it's not just about building muscle.
No.
There's far more to it than that.
So, well, yeah, we should dive more. I think I would love to get someone on who is an expert in testosterone
Yeah.
too. You know,
We'll reach out to Danny Bosa in Montreal. He has a hormone optimization channel.
yeah, maybe he'll
They
join
have some
us.
great information on there.
Great.
Really good information.
So diet. That's the other. That's another thing that, and I've been all over the place with diet, and all over the place.
When did you start like
And by the way,
being
when we say
mindful?
diet, we're not talking about fad diets and, trying to do a diet to lose weight in the next month and then go back to something else. This is lifestyle,
Right.
a change of lifestyle, right? A lifestyle diet. Sorry, you were asking.
When did you start caring about nutrition, being mindful and
After my heart surgery,
okay.
2016. So 2016, I had,
So what were you eating prior to that? 2016.
I have no idea. I mean, I was eating okay.
Were you mindful eating, or did you like if you wanted a bag of Doritos?
I didn't research my eating back then. I was, if you look back at the history of what we've been told by the food guides, whether it be the Canada Food Guide or the United States Food Guides, they're bullshit, right? They're garbage.
It's all industry based.
But back in the day, they said fat was bad for you, so they went to stuff like margarine and all that. And I used to eat gobs of margarine because I thought it was better for you.
Sucker,
That stuff's toxic, man. That stuff is nasty.
yeah, that'll kill you.
That'll kill you. So was I eating healthy? I was eating.
You thought you were,
I wasn't researching anything. I was just eating what I was told was.
but you wanted to eat well.
Yeah, we wanted to eat well, but I wasn't eating terrible, but I wasn't eating great. But I certainly was also eating stuff that I was told was good for me that was terrible. Maybe drinking a bottle of diet ginger ale every couple of days that had, full of aspartame, which is just toxic. So was I eating well? Well, no, I was not eating well. I was eating what I thought was well.
That's right. Yeah.
So after my heart surgery, I've been on a quest. I've been on an insane health quest, and that's 6 years ago now, right? 6 years ago, yeah. And researching, and I research everything, and one of the things I've discovered that I didn't know before that is the sugar. How terrible sugar is for the body. Actually, I was having this discussion with my son today on the way back from. We went to Montreal to see Bill Burr, and we were having this discussion about food because he's a teenager and eats chips and sugary stuff and whatever. And I said, "Well, sugar is a poison." He said, "Well, it's not poison." I said, "Yeah, it's a poison. Look up the definition of poison. Something that can harm the body, right? A substance, an exterior substance that can harm the body."
Fair enough. Indeed. Yeah.
So it's a poison. We just call it sugar. It sounds nice and it tastes sweet, but it's a poison, And so I discovered the ills of sugar, and so many negative effects that sugar has on the body. So I haven't eaten sugar in years. So you say, were you eating healthy before? Well, I was eating sugar. I didn't know that sugar was so bad for the body. I was eating a lot of processed foods, right? That's the other thing. Well, to me, if I had to cut out two things to be healthier, it would be sugar and processed foods. And I still eat some processed food. I eat bacon. It's a processed food.
But it doesn't have industrial vegetable oil.
It doesn't,
most
but
of
that's right.
So it's a lesser, but I mean, it's,
But
yeah.
I choose my
Poisons.
I choose my poison, and it is a poison. So I choose my poison. It's like, oh, bacon. I'm not going to eat it every day, all day, but yeah, once in a while I like bacon. And I know, my discussion with my son wasn't about don't eat it. It's like, just be honest. It's not good for you. Just say, okay, I know it's not good for me. I'm eating it anyways, right? So what I've done with my diet is I got rid of sugar. I don't eat sugar at all. More recently, in the last few years, I switched to a ketogenic diet, which, basically eliminates most carbs and forces the body, rather than living off of glucose, which is basically sugar, for energy, it switches to fat for energy. So it's a high fat, moderate protein, low carb diet.
And what did that do for you? Tell me the effects of keto.
Well, I combined that with intermittent fasting, and intermittent fasting is just not eating for a period of time. I think everybody doesn't eat for a period of time. When they go to sleep at night and they wake up in the morning, well, they fasted while they were sleeping, unless they were eating while they were sleeping. And, some people, so I went, but they've, studies have shown that if you fast for 16 hours or more before your next meal, your first meal, it has some amazing beneficial effects. Um, so I added that, and I started
And it
with,
goes hand in hand with keto, because
it
it
goes hand in
both
hand.
lower
So
insulin.
yeah, but plus the body relies on fat for energy now. So it learns how to take stores from the body, fat stores from the body, and turn it into energy. Right before, when I was on a carbohydrate based diet, it knows how to turn carbohydrates into glucose, which is the form of energy it's looking for. Right, and so it would still burn fat if it needed to, but it's not a machine designed to burn fat. It just does that as an alternate. Right, I'm putting in very layman terms, but ketogenic diet turns that around and says, no, fat's your new source of energy. And it becomes this machine that looks to fat for energy, right?
So I want to stay with keto for a minute. Um, so many people, I mean, keto's big now. It's been big for years. Um, but there's that argument is it is a diet. It's not meant to be a lifestyle. And
Says who?
many people, yeah, many people feel that it's not.
I've done so well on the keto diet.
And how long were you on keto?
I've been on it for years. Like,
So literally, so there's the argument that not having carbs affects your thyroid. Now,
my
if you were
thyroid,
yeah, bring that
so
up.
since being on keto, it actually went the other way. So I had to be on thyroid medication. I've been on it
Prior
for
to,
years.
yeah,
And my doctor recently told me you don't need thyroid medication. Your thyroid's fine. So I don't know.
there you go. I mean,
I
are
mean,
you lucky or
the
is the
proof's in the
information?
pudding,
Yeah,
brother.
right.
You
Yeah.
know, energy levels are high. I can fast because my body's just going off my fat stores. Doesn't mean I don't feel hungry once in a while. But I started with the intermittent fasting at 14 hours. Then I went up to 16. And I heard these people talking about they were doing OMAD, they call it, one meal a day, right? And I'm like, that's stupid. I was going to do one meal a day, and I'm pretty much one meal a day now. Because what happened was, like, okay, I would wait till lunch. I would eat a lunch. That would be my first meal.
And you acclimate to that.
You
You
acclimate
can,
to it.
yeah.
Because when you think about food, then you start getting those stomach pangs, But when I'm not thinking about it, I just don't think about it. And so, and then I was like, I really don't eat lunch at work, and I was kind of forcing myself to have lunch. So I'll wait a couple hours. Maybe I'll have a snack at around 2. Then two would come. I'll just wait till I get home, So I get home around 4 or whatever, and that's kind of where I've landed. I eat between 4 and 7. I might have a snack at 4. I was trying to do the OMAD, but I found that I was eating too much food in one meal to try
Yes.
and get the calories
Yes,
in,
there is that risk with the one
and
meal
I
a
was
day.
stuffed, and then I
Yeah.
wasn't digesting the food. So I do like probably 2 meals a day, and a bit of
So you
snack.
have a feeding window, would you
Yeah,
say?
I have a feeding window. And the nice thing about that combined with keto is that my body's just looking for fat. So I got a little extra, not a ton, but I got a little extra in my body. So if I don't eat for a while, it knows exactly where to go,
Yeah, right.
right?
Yeah.
Rather than giving me those hungers for. And the other thing, by the way, getting off carbs is I used to have like minor joint pains and stuff from training and whatever. That all went away.
Amazing. I've heard that before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the effects of keto. So I've been on keto for years. And then recently, we discussed this. We had been talking about it for a while. I wanted to try the carnivore diet, which
Explain
is
what that is.
meat only. It's not hard. It's just meat.
Only meat.
Go to a restaurant and say, I'll have a steak. And they say, what do you want for the sides? I say, only meat. You want salad? No, just meat. Unless it's made out of, your salad's made out of meat, I'm not interested. So I have steak with bacon side, So it's just meat. If it flies, swims, or walks, it's edible, right? And I'm still not convinced that's a good long-term plan. I don't know. And I'm not going to comment on it because I really don't know. Getting these blood tests done now, I'll see how my cholesterol levels are. I'm going to see how it's affected a lot of things. But my wife went on it, and it's been so good for her because she's had, GI issues and bloating and gas and all that stuff. And as soon as she went on carnivore, it went away. She had no issues. And she didn't do well on keto, but she did really well on carnivore.
Amazing.
Yeah. And
Well,
maybe we'll get her on here someday to talk about
yeah,
her
that'd be
different,
great to hear.
because she's done dieting for competitions, fitness competitions
Right.
and that type of thing.
So she must have tried all sorts of diets.
She's tried all sorts of things, and she's been pretty much. I think she's pretty much sticking now with the carnivore. So I switched to carnivore maybe 6 months ago, and I did it for Lent actually during Easter, and then I really liked it, but I'm still not convinced it's a healthy long-term solution. I don't know. I'm not convinced it's not, but I'm not convinced it is. So now I kind of bounce between carnivore and keto. You know, like Sunday is my cheat day, so I'll just eat whatever as long as it's within the keto range. And most other days, it's pretty much carnivore. You know,
First time I heard about carnivore, I went to Saint Sauveur and I to see this doctor, sports medicine doctor, older gentleman, must have been early 60s at that time. And I've never seen anyone more vascular in my life. And we
yeah,
started, he obviously trained. You could tell his forearms were just cables running through it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so we started talking, training, and he mentioned carnivore. I didn't hear about it. I never heard about it. And he just went on about how amazing you feel on it. And then I dug into it a little bit further, and it's remarkable, like literally remarkable on the changes that have people's affected from mental health issues. And these are
yes,
well documented.
yes, yes.
Skin disorder, digestion's a huge one. It's probably the only food for most people that there's no inflammatory effect from.
In
Nuts
fact,
and
it's the
seeds.
opposite. It reduces inflammation.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
That would make
Jordan
sense.
Peterson is on it, and his daughter Michaela, who had apparently had like so many medical issues, went on it and it resolved most of it. I understand.
Speaking of Jordan Peterson, funny you bring him up because I just recently saw an interview and they said, "Are you still on that meat diet thing?" He goes, "Unfortunately, yes." Why unfortunately? He says, it works great. That's why I'm still on it. It's gotten rid of so many issues that I've had, health issues that I've had. I mean, he'd like to have the variety, but it speaks to the power of it for healing.
And you've been on it. I think
I've done it like a couple weeks at a time.
the weird part is because we've been raised to you got to have your vegetables, you got to eat your greens, so you don't eat any of that stuff.
Oh, you're not even supposed to season it except for salt. But I mean, if
I
you
do
go
the
that,
seasoning, you know.
I don't think that's going to impact. I really don't
Yeah.
have a negative impact. It
And
depends.
so it's really weird not to have vegetables like a salad.
Yeah, which is very keto. You know,
It's keto,
steak
but
and a
it's not
salad.
carnivore.
That's
It's like,
right.
oh, I'm just so used to thinking, oh, salad's good for you. I should eat salad. And I like salad, but
What have you noticed a difference between keto and carnivore? Have you
um,
leaner?
I
You're definitely
got
leaner.
leaner.
Yeah.
I leaned out. I don't
Anything
know.
performance wise? Anything? I mean, you get great mental
No,
clarity from keto as well. So
yeah, no. I just probably more about leanness. Yeah,
right, okay.
yeah. And so I'm kind of bounced between keto. I think you call it. What do you call it?
Keto for?
Keto for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a
I
bit.
stole
Of,
that
I'm a
from somebody.
ketovore kind.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
these are again, these are not things I'm just going to do for a week or two. You know, this is I may bounce between keto and carnivore. I'm going to see what my blood looks like after I get it tested this
Will
week.
you share that with us on the next
I will
show?
share it. Yeah, I will. You know, I'll get it analyzed first and then sort of get a handle on what it looks like. If my cholesterol has gone skyrocket high, okay, well that's problematic. But like I said, with the keto diet, it seems to have fixed my thyroid issue.
Amazing.
I was hypothyroid, and now I'm normal. You know?
It's so counterintuitive. Like you
Yeah.
didn't think so. Um, how did keto impact your cholesterol?
Well, I don't know. Oh no, that's not true. So my cholesterol went down. Now I was doing other things too. I take niacin,
Uh,
which not the what do they call it. They have the no
non-flush.
flush version,
Yeah.
which doesn't help cholesterol. I take the regular version, so you get like a, you know, itchiness, redness for temporarily, and which doesn't. I actually like it, but
Oh, on a side note, how much do you take? Because I'm going to start like, milligram wise. Do you remember?
I think I take 1,000.
Okay, I'll check.
I think
with
they're
you.
500 each,
It depends on what brand you get.
and I take two
Two?
a day. I used to
Okay.
take 4 a day, 2 in the morning, 2 at night,
Yeah.
but I switched to just 2 a day
Okay.
with a meal, and my cholesterol dropped. So I don't know if it's the niacin because niacin is known to reduce cholesterol, and of course my doctor said, well, that's not the right way to reduce the cholesterol. You got to take a statin. I'm like,
So
low,
it
it's
doesn't
low.
matter that it's dropped.
No,
The pathway matters.
Yeah. which is just,
Yeah.
you know, it's mind boggling. But
Yeah.
anyways, I just ignore those things. So it brought, I'm at the high level of normal for cholesterol. But again, I don't worry about cholesterol on its own. Like if I isolate a cholesterol and said, "Oh, this is the sort of the indicator of my health," no, it's not true. I mean, I'm more interested in inflammation, and I know one thing that carnivore and keto reduce inflammation, and my inflammation went down to a very normal inflammation. The C-reactive protein test,
Right.
CRP. And there are other tests you can test for inflammation, but it went from high to normal. And so, and inflammation is a bigger indicator of heart health than it is cholesterol.
I on the cholesterol and keto, sure the niacin helped, I'm sure, but the amount of fat that you're taking in would sort of outweigh the benefits of niacin if keto is going to be a problem on your
Yeah,
cholesterol.
it's
Yeah,
counterintuitive to be on a keto diet, high
and have
fat,
your
and when you have high cholesterol,
for sure
but it works. It worked for me. And, my doctors think I'm nuts and I think they're nuts, and that's fine. We have a
a
mutual,
mutual.
mutual disrespect for each
Yeah,
other.
yeah. And who's healthier? I wonder. Like, isn't that at the end of the day? It's funny. We won't get too. We won't strangle them too much, but health is what matters.
And,
And we're not
we've
looking
talked
at
about
that.
that health span, right? I, I don't care. I mean, I might live till 90. I might live till 80. I might live till 100. I think I'm going to live as long as I'm supposed to live, but I want to live a healthy life
Right,
to that point.
right.
So I'm interested in my health span, not my
You don't
lifespan.
want to be 95 for the sake of being 95
And
and
decrepit.
crapping your pants and
Uh,
still. I mean, yeah, no quality. The what is that?
Quality of life.
Yeah,
I mean, I see people, even my mom, she's 88. We have longevity in the family, but, she's declined. And, you know, I could see myself at 88 being almost as agile and energetic and whatever as I am now,
yeah.
you know?
It's possible. You're certainly on your way.
Maybe I'll drop dead at 88, but, but it'll be a really good 88
Yeah, that's
years,
right. You look good in your coffin, right?
That's right. I look epic.
You should put a note now to go sleeveless.
Sleeveless
Yeah,
in my coffin.
yeah.
I mean, how are they going to pump up my veins? So I got to look.
There's
I
got to
got
be
to look
something to take that. There's going to
vascular.
be a peptide for that, even when you're dead.
Yeah. So I'd say that carnivore is something I'm interested in. I don't know if I'll stay on it. I don't know if I'll bounce in and out of it. Uh, right now, I'm mostly carnivore and sometimes keto. Keto definitely. I don't see. So I've gone back to when I fought. My trainer said I want you to get back in, rice and all this
Yeah,
carb stuff.
yeah.
The traditional thinking. And I started to get joint pains, and I don't feel I performed as well. I ran out of energy, and I don't think wouldn't do that again. I would stay on keto, at the
Because
very
you
least.
don't hear that often. You don't hear fighters not eating carbs.
No. And so, and well, any athlete, right?
Right.
Carbs seem to be like, well, I was talking to my son about this. We've been taught to think a certain way, right? And based on the information we've had over the decades, we used to think that fat was a bad thing. Then we used to think salt was a bad thing. We know salt,
There's a
especially,
topic.
is good for you. Like,
Right.
right? Then we used to but there's so many things. The one thing we haven't talked about is how we've talked about, but our culture hasn't talked about how bad sugar is, because it's in everything. For them to point out how terrible sugar is for you, that means like 90% of the foods that are on the shelves will have to get re-examined. So all these things we've been taught over the years. So when we talk about a carnivore diet or we talk about a keto diet, it's very counter to what we've been taught over the years. Eat your vegetables, your grains, I mean, what's the Canada Food Guide? What's the
Oh,
top thing? It's grains, isn't it?
yeah. Well, yeah,
I think it's
bread.
grains or
What does it
fruits and
say?
vegetables or whatever, right? I mean, so eat some fruits, but I wouldn't place that at the top of my pyramid,
Right.
So it's kind of awkward when we talk about doing one of these sort of, call them the newer diets, newer lifestyle diets, because it doesn't fit within what we've known for the last 40 years, right? I think, in 10 years, people will be talking about keto like, oh yeah, that's
Right.
really normal. And, on keto, you can eat greens, but I'm not sure where carnivore is going. I'm still a sort of on the fence on that one.
But right now, the way
I
you
like
would
it,
put it,
but
yeah, right. You can get ready for a wedding if you wanted to lose weight,
yeah,
or a beach trip or
yeah.
something like that, right? Um, but very, very applicable to those who have certain autoimmune or skin disorders, again, mental health
Yeah,
or digestive issues.
maybe
Um,
that's why I'm sane, because I'm on the carnivore.
maybe.
Yeah, maybe I'd be nuts if
You
otherwise.
ever find a crazy animal out there?
Mad cow disease. Eh? So what about? Do you want to share a bit about your
Yeah,
foods you've been trying, or?
I always come back to low carb, and I as well venture from keto to low carb, and sometimes I buy into the fact that you need post workout carbs
Mm.
to increase protein synthesis. The studies have shown, and experts will say that you will increase muscle protein synthesis far greater with carbs and protein than protein alone.
So what is that? What is the effect of having greater protein synthesis?
Better muscle development and strength at the end of the day, really.
I don't know. I'm living
Yeah,
proof
yeah, yeah.
otherwise.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. It's also an excuse to have an apple or a
Yeah, that's
banana
right.
or
Yeah.
watermelon. So, and that's the other thing. I do love the effect of keto, carnivore, and all these ultra low carb diets. But I do enjoy foods, certain foods that are might not fall within the definitely not in the carnivore realm, and maybe get you out of ketosis, but still in the low carb.
Well, you remember my wife? She had a keto bakery, and she's
Right.
the best keto
Amazing.
baker on the planet. And I'm not saying that's because she's my wife.
I'll,
Her
I'll,
her
I'll
stuff
vouch
is
for that.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
she is masterful in
we
designing.
shouldn't even talk about it. That's how good it is.
That's right. I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. And I told you about, she made this pie a couple of weeks ago, just off the top of her head. She said, "I'm going to make this keto pie." Like people were just falling all over this thing. It was so, it's hard to believe. Well, the motto of the website was hard to believe it's good for you, you know?
Right.
And so you can have your cake and
Yeah.
eat it too,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Your pie, cake.
Yeah. Your pie and eat it too.
Yeah.
And that's, I'm lucky that she's not as much recently, but she's baked for me, and I get to eat all these donuts and cupcakes and pies and what have you, and
And they're decadent, man. Like,
they are decadent.
no
They are
sugar.
so good,
Yeah.
and she just creates these things, and the basis of all of them is almond flour, and you never know, and so
Yeah. There's not much
I don't
sacrifice
think you
there.
have to eat sweets. I don't think you have to eat like you can have a keto sweet.
It definitely, and it does the trick.
Yeah.
It certainly does. But I do like fruit, so I'll use a post workout depending if it's intense. Um, I'll use an excuse to have an apple or banana or watermelon, especially during this time of year. But primarily, I focus on protein. I do really well with protein,
Yeah.
um, which we should spend a little bit of time on. The amount of protein, and I heard I've been
That's
following.
been all over the map. I've heard so many ranges. You need
I'm
this much per body
Yeah.
weight. You need this. And some people say, you don't even need close to that amount. And I don't know. Like, I don't know. When it comes to that kind of thing, I kind of just want to eat. I don't want to measure it, you know?
And keto takes, keto and carnivore, especially carnivore. There's no measuring. There's no
It's
counting.
meat.
You just eat meat, and
And it's supposed to be a fatty meat, right? I think
yeah,
it's supposed to be
because
fattier
you need
meats.
to have your energy source.
Yeah.
That's coming from animal fat,
Right. Which is great. I mean, I love steak.
and you don't want to do fillets all the time. You definitely want a ribeye. You want the heavier
ribeye,
ones.
yeah.
Yeah,
It'll be interesting to see my cholesterol levels
that'd
after.
be interesting for
So
sure.
you did a bit of you've been sort of in and out of carnivore,
Yeah, mostly
keto,
low
and then
carb.
sometimes not even keto.
Right, low carb primarily.
carb.
So if I'm always within that low carb realm.
And so in your low carb or your keto or your carnivore, do you notice any changes in terms of how you feel?
I think I felt. Yeah, good question. I think I felt the best on carnivore.
You did, eh?
Yeah, it was a short stint. But I know that I'll.
And why wouldn't you stay on carnivore? Aside from
the
the fact
variety. I need variety.
it is tough. I find carnivore is a tough. Maybe what Jordan Peterson was saying as well. It's tough. It's not. I love meat. Don't get me wrong. I love meat, but there isn't. I mean, you have meat for dinner, and then you have meat for a snack. And
Yeah.
meat
I
for
remember
meat
you
for
telling me
dessert.
pepperettes as a snack.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's
I was at a restaurant the other night, and I had seafood, and then they said, "Well, do you want dessert?" I said, "If your dessert's made out of meat, I'll eat it. You
yeah.
can bring it, but otherwise,
Well, there's something there. Meaty desserts.
meaty desserts here
Yeah,
for the carnivore."
yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is very restricting in terms of what you
It
can eat.
is right, and I like to indulge once in a while. So that the being in ketosis, I felt like I was walking on thin ice.
Yeah.
Because if I had a little bit too many carbs, I was concerned of getting out of it. Although I do feel good on it, but it's summer, fresh fruit.
One thing I found with carbs, we're going to wrap up soon, but is so I started using a carb tracker on my iPhone, and I actually was eating a lot more carbs than I thought I was eating.
Yeah, even on keto.
When thought I was on keto, and I was probably on a mild version of keto, but I was eating more carbs than I thought, because a lot of foods had carbs that I didn't realize. But once I got into the habit, now I know, I know what I can and can't eat that, high in carbs. Now that I'm on mostly carnivore, it doesn't really matter anyways.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
there's
meat,
no
then it fits,
carbs. Yeah,
Well, I guess
yeah.
there's carbs in meat too.
What is there, a gram in an egg or something like that?
Yeah, there's some in steak too. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Nah.
Whatever. I mean, bottom line is it doesn't take. So the nice thing about carnivore, it doesn't take a lot of thoughts. You don't have to go through a carb tracker. You just eat. Anyway, so you've had different experiences with different diets, and I have as well. And I think we're both kind of gauging where are we going to do more carnivore or keto or whatever. And for me, I'm leaning towards carnivore, but I have to make sure it's healthy for me.
Right. You'll know after those labs.
With a keto break on a Sunday or something, have whatever.
That's reasonable. I like what the one doctor said: life is to be endured, not life enjoyed, not endured.
Yeah.
So, hey, you loosen up a little bit, but
Yeah,
you still have your veins.
still my veins. I feel great. I mean, people don't believe I am the age I am.
Wow. Especially running up a hill and beating 30-year-olds and
Yeah,
it's
I
crazy.
haven't felt that motivated the last couple of weeks, but I can do it if I want. I just haven't.
Sure.
Well, thanks, Eli.
Yeah, it was nice chatting again.
Yeah,
And-
we have so many topics we need to dive into,
Yeah.
but we have lots of time.
I like our strategy. We'll figure it out when we sit on the chair.
Figure it out when we sit in the chair.
Yeah.
I would like to dive more into peptides. I would love to dive specific peptides too. Talk about some of the effects of peptides.
I think we need to talk a little bit more on testosterone and the stigma and some of the potential side effects. And
I'd love to get
I don't
someone
know.
who's an expert on
yeah, I think we
testosterone,
really should. Yeah.
because I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm
You just
I'm not
don't
an
do it
expert
for
in
it.
anything. I'm just a layperson who's studied a lot, but
And tried. You got to
and tried.
Yeah.
I use myself as a human guinea pig.
So far, so good, man.
I don't know. We'll see. Well, I'll let you know after I get my blood test.
Well, if you don't make, if you're
if I
not
get
on that, if there's not another show next week, well, then
It
the
didn't go very
experiment
well, yeah.
failed. Yeah.
But if I get my blood test back, I'm like, oh my god,
I can't wait for that.
That's terrible, or oh, that's great.
Right.
My gut tells me it's going to be great, but I think there'll be a couple of things that are off, but whatever.
I can't wait to see.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
See you
Thanks.
next time.